Want to get big, strong legs and get better at boxing? Let's get it. What the? All right, let's get started. When you want to get more athletic, you have to train more athletically. For this purpose, I'm going to break it down into three major ones. Power, our ability to generate force explosively and with great acceleration. Speed, our ability to move through space with great quickness. Stability and agility. Now, that might not seem like a major one, but in terms of boxing, I'm looking at that as like potentially, number one or number two as well. Looking at not only controlling the space that we're in, right? Dominating every position that we get in, but it's also our ability to be very comfortable in uncomfortable positions and to make very quick adjustments. That stability leads to more agility, leads to quick adjustments from every position. Once we divided our categories, I want to look at the areas in which we want to improve, our power, our speed, and our stability. First, hip drive. This is where so much of our power is going to come from. The hip comes through, the glutes come through, and that's where the power is coming from. Vertical drive. Now, yes, this is going to help tremendously with our uppercuts or body hooks or jumping hooks a la Mike Tyson. But more than that, in terms of the way we move, it's also our ability to go down. We think of vertical drive only as the ability to go up, but our ability to go down is absolutely massive. From getting under punches more quickly, more explosively, from getting under punches in a way that we're instantly loaded and ready to throw something else, but also in terms of the way we move around space. When you look at Mike Tyson, he never moved like this. He always moved like this. It's a constant moving target. It's constantly changing angles, changing potential. And then we want to look at lateral drive. When I look at lateral drive, it's pretty simple. It's our ability to move on the horizontal plane, right? It's everything we do in terms of moving side to side, moving, front and back, moving diagonally, and just absolutely dominating the space around us. Now, on to how we train this. So, step one, no surprise. Number one, squats. Squats, squats, squats. This is the most non-negotiable lower body training exercise. This is the foundation not just of lower body athleticism, but athleticism. When we look at what we're trying to work on here, squats are going to be a massive part of generating our power, but also our speed in the way that we come up. But this is the underrated component. I find squats to be potentially the greatest tool we have to establish our stability, to establish our feet's ability and our feet's need to be absolutely anchored into the ground when they have to be. In terms of what we're working on here, hip drive, secondarily, but absolutely a major component in terms of how the glutes are worked through the squats. Vertical drive, it goes without saying. Now, when you squat, I want you to focus on three things. One, squeeze your abs, compress your ribs, like you're about to take a punch from Mike Tyson. Number two, I want you to anchor your feet into the ground. That means you're gonna grip the floor with your pinky toe, your big toe, and your heel equally. Next, I don't want you to just go down. I want you to try to rip the floor under you and go down like you're trying to crush the ground. Now, step three is to drive back up with intent. I don't want you to just come up. I want you to keep your core tight, drive back up like you're trying to jump through the ceiling. Don't let your back lean forward. Make sure that triangle at the top of your back wins the race. Get up there like you're trying to get up there. Next, we move on to deadlifts. However, this is where I see people go way wrong. If I can learn to write here. So, what I see is a lot of people just try to pull the weight with their back. Now, A, this is a recipe for back pain. B, this doesn't teach us to generate any power from the most important part of our body, our hips. So get down there, grip that bar tightly, and squeeze your abs, squeeze your core like you're about to catch an uppercut right in the gut. From there, I want you to sit back and up and take all the slack out of the bar. Once all that tension is established, what I want you to do is I want you to push from your whole foot, right? The pinky toe, the big toe, and the heel, and just push the floor away until that bar gets to about your knee. Now, keep that bar really close to you the whole time. As soon as that bar gets to about your knee, I want you to shoot your hips as hard as you can, as fast as you can. This is where we develop our hip drive. This is where we develop the power with the sheer weight of it and the speed. This is a massive component. How fast can we get our hips through space? And lastly, this is going to be a major source of our explosiveness from the zero component. The deadlift, by definition, we're generating the power from a complete immobile weight on the ground. How fast can we get into that position, that athletic position, where we are generating our maximum power output? Next up, we're moving into a very important athletic combination. This is called contrast training. So we're going to be doing lunges combined with high jumps. Now, For these, I highly recommend reverse lunges. A, we're going to be working on the forward plane later on, but B, given that we're going to be working with slightly heavier weights, I want to take some of the tension away from the knee, some of the pressure away from stepping into the knee and rather stepping away from the knee. So here, I want you to take a weight, not a weight that's going to be easy for you to do, the traditional 10 to 12 on each side kind of thing. I want you to take a weight that you can do anywhere from 3 or 4 to 6, right? With some difficulty. I want the last one to be a challenge. I want you to alternate leg every time and come up within 10. Again, come down with control, come up within 10. As soon as you finish those, and I mean as soon as you finish those, I want you to step right over to a stool or a bench or anything that's right around, the height of your bent knee. And I want you to go into the highest jumps you can possibly do. I want you to sit into a squat and just jump as high as you possibly can. For this, I really only want 5. I want them to be as explosive and as fast as you possibly can. Now, again, this is going to be tremendous in terms of generating our power and our speed. However, when you're leaning back on one leg, when you're going back on one leg with one leg forward, one leg back, handling a relatively significant load, I promise you're going to be training your stability enormously. The major component that we're going to be working on in this is the vertical drive. There's not going to be much in terms of hip drive. It is a great secondary hamstring exercise and a great glute exercise. But obviously, in terms of the movement pattern and the axis, is going to be the vertical drive. However, by moving forward and backward, we are improving our ability to move laterally through space as well. I also just realized that there's no bar here. Next up is a really unique one. I've never really seen anybody do it, so maybe this is my own invention, maybe not, doesn't really matter. But this is the single leg squat hold. This is absolutely crucial to so many of the positions we end up in boxing. We end up in these positions where we're leaning about 80 to 90% on one leg potentially, in a forward position, sometimes in a backward position, in somewhat of a squatted position. Now, with these, what I want you to focus on is get your stability, get your balance, right? Work on that stability and that agility, and then start descending to a point of comfort. I want it to be difficult. I want you to be able to hold it for about 5 seconds, but I don't want it to be easy either. So try to see how far down you can go. And from there, once you have that position, that really athletic position, you feel your quads burning, I want you to explode up with vertical drive, work on your speed and your power. Now, this is an exercise we do weightless, right? I want it to really be about that static hold at the bottom. And again, this is going to be a great exercise to train your feet to be extremely rooted into the ground, right? We don't want the knee to be going back and forth. We don't want to be losing our balance. And this is going to be a great exercise to train the versatility of our feet. And this is going to be crucial for our slips to the right and to the left, our uppercuts, our body hooks, because our ability to derive power from the bottom, from the ground, depends so much on our ability to be rooted into the ground, right? To be completely stable in the position that we just reached. And how do we get to that position and then explode out of it? Next up, the horse jumps, as I like to call them. I've been told it makes no sense, but I don't really care. With these, I want you to set up, just about a little more than shoulder width apart with whatever you're going to be jumping over. And I want you to start with pronounced high steps that land on one of your feet on the outside and you stick it. I want you to feel that glute just burning when you stick that. That's where the horse thing kind of comes in. As you do a couple reps, maybe 3 side to side with that kind of like high step, high power, stick it. I want you to start accelerating them a little bit, right? So maybe for 3 more reps to each side, I want you to start accelerating them a little bit. Once you've done those, I want you to try to go as fast as possible, transitioning extremely quickly. Again, we're going to be working here on extremely fast feet, right? Extremely quick and powerful feet on our lateral drive, horizontal drive, and our vertical drive in the way that we get those knees up. Improving our speed and improving our stability and our agility. As we move to the side, I promise you this will get a lot easier, but at the beginning it's going to be quite a struggle to really plant that foot on the outside, right? To get those steps extremely coordinated. On top of it, there's a massive component, which is kind of the neuromuscular challenge. Making your brain have to coordinate things that it's unfamiliar with makes you a better athlete. And this is highly underrated, but the ability for your brain to process things in quick time, to learn to coordinate new movements, to learn to coordinate in space with things that it's uncomfortable with, working in the subconscious as you're performing athletic movements. I want you to treat these as well as part of your conditioning work, right? So I want you to get tired on these. I don't, when I say 3 reps on each side or whatnot, like if that's not challenging you all the way, up it. I want you to finish that set and feel absolutely gassed, out of breath. I want your heart rate elevated through this. But again, break it up into thirds. I want those extremely powerful high steps with those sticks where you stick it for 2 to 3 seconds. Then I want those steps where you stick it a little bit, but more we're trying to move with speed. And the third set where you're just absolutely flying through, looking like a beast. And lastly, if you have time, I didn't film any of this, but hamstring curls are obviously very beneficial to a complete leg workout. I personally prefer the seated version, as it doesn't allow your glutes to come in as much. It's really gonna isolate the hamstrings a lot more. So I think finishing on those is fantastic. And if you find this useful, like, subscribe, leave a comment. It means a lot. I'll see you soon. Happy boxing.